Now this is a 1974 16 horse Briggs and Stratton. I want to take the head off of it and maybe take the pan off of it and pull the connecting rod and piston out. I want to try to measure the cylinder bore, and I'm kind of more or less looking for outer roundness right now than I am what it is. And then I'd like to just see what kind of condition this is in to see what I need to do. So we'll take these off. That should be enough to get that heat shield off of there. You see, that thing's gonna be a pain, ain't it? Yeah, hold it off for a little bit. A lot of times I'll go opposite of what the pattern is to torque it, but I don't have that out here right now. So the other thing I see is that dipstick tube probably gonna have to be picked up out of there. I can twist it just because of the okay. There's what it looks like inside. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but there is some movement in the piston. It's not that much. Yeah, I guess there is a little bit. You want to see down in the cylinder? I don't know if you'll be able to see. So far I'm not seeing no big gouges. There is a few little scratches, but nothing too bad. Not that I'm going to get it bored out for, I don't think, unless it's way out of measurements. So I think the next thing we ought to do, you know, let's pull it apart here and let's take the pan off and we can disconnect the connecting rod. Okay, so on the back here there's a bracket that holds the starter generator. We'll have to remove that. And there's 2 bolts here. Oh, these might be bigger. Yeah, we got to move up to a 9/16 socket, I guess. Okay, so we'll take these ones out of the pan. If I can get the front ones are out. And yes, I did drain the oil out of this a long time ago. I'm pretty sure. If not, there'll be oil everywhere. I guess I'll roll it up on the flywheel side. Actually, the pan's already coming off of it. lay it up on its back. That way I can spin it. On this connecting rod here, this is your oil slinger. That's what whips the oil up in there. You want to take a note to what side it goes to. It's toward the fan shroud on this one, and the rod is made different on one side to the other, the way it looks, but you could take a little punch if you wanted to and make two little dots here. Anything so you know which way to put it back in, or to reference when you go to put a different one in. I'll probably take this paint marker and just go up through here, and I just mark blue, and that way you know which side it's on. Now I know the paint markers don't come off. If you want to, when you get it out of there, you could always punch it. Take a picture or something so you know how that goes. Now these little tabs are just locking tabs. You just take a chisel or something and bend them right up out of the way. They'll bend out of there pretty easy. I say this engine didn't really have no bad noises in it. I think the governor might be messed up in it, but I do have another governor, and I like to put some rings in it, I think, because it was smoking. And I gotta look, I want to check the bearings out too. This side bearing might be junk. Now, harder to get in there. Because of that bow and that thing there. But, okay. I figured that would bring her right loose. And go for backup. The way that thing springs or pushes over there, wants to push your socket off. It actually doesn't look bad. I've seen a lot worse. Now we can take, I wish I could put you on both sides. We can take that piston now. There's not really a ring ridge at the top. We can push that piston right up out of there. Just use a hammer handle. Also on the top of the piston, there's a notch, and it goes toward the flywheel. I'll show that to you when I get it out of here. I just don't want to drop it. This is the way I took it up out of there, and there's that notch. It goes toward the flywheel. Now, this piston doesn't really look all that bad. Probably got some skirt wear. We'll see, we'll measure it and see if it's within specs. See all the, there's a lot of crud and carbon looking stuff on that oil ring. Rod looks pretty good though. Now on that piston, that paint marker's already wearing off of there. I knew it would. I'm gonna put this rod back together just so I know how it goes. Like I say, this piston, it just looks pretty scuffed on that top edge a little bit. We'll have to clean it up a little bit and see. I don't mind putting a piston in it if it's going to run. And there's no markings on the top that I see. Usually if it's an oversize or something, it'll be stamped on there, and I don't see nothing stamped on there. Let's see, I'm just going to put this oil pan back on there so I can set the engine up. I didn't want to tighten it up tight. Okay. What I want to do, I want to try to wipe all the oil out of that cylinder. And I'll move the camera here. I'll try to get as much oil as I can out of there within reason. Because just a little film of oil will change your... The other thing is, it's cold out here. It's probably only, I don't know, I guess it's 40 degrees maybe. So now what we got to measure the cylinder walls is this bore dial indicator. And there's a pin in the back here. When you hit it, see how it moves the dial indicator? Now each one of these marks is a 1/2 thousandth. So you got this pins that'll fit in here. And you got to find the right pin that'll fit down in here. Alright. Now say if that pin would have been too big, I would have come in here the next size down I got in my hand. I would have put that pin in, and then see that one's too big or too small. Also, they give you some of these shims. Like if you was in between the two, you got a shim you can put on here and then put in there. And they give you several different sizes, thicknesses of shims, but we're not going to need that. So what we're going to do is put this one in there. 2 to 6 inches. This one's a Fowler. I don't care what kind you buy, they're all. This one doesn't even spell it right, so whatever. So now, next thing is, we got 2 options here. Now, to measure the cylinder to know the size and everything, you would have to put this into a micrometer or some other kind of device to set it up the right way. And that's what I'll do here in a minute. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. The other way you can use this is the bottom of the cylinder, below where the rings ride, usually doesn't get worn as much. So it's kind of a good starting point. It's not going to be exact. It may or may not be worn, so don't just set it there thinking that's perfect measurement. But if you go all the way to the bottom, I don't know if you can see the needle moving. But when that needle moves, when it's up here, it's a longer distance. That means I've got this thing turned like this or like this. When it's flat straight across, that's the shortest distance. So that's when your needle will be down here as far as it'll go. So if you went to the very bottom of the cylinder and went back and forth to get the lowest part of the needle, turn the dial on here till it's on 0. That would give you a good indication as you come up the cylinder in 3 spots and then turned at 90 degrees and went 3 spots. That would give you a good indication of how much wear you have in the cylinder and how much out of round and all. But we're going to set it with a micrometer. So we'll set it to the biggest the cylinder can be by Briggs specs, and then we'll start measuring. Okay, so what I did, I went into the Briggs manual and I got looking. This engine, the brand new cylinder size would be 3.5615. The biggest would be 3.5625. So I set this micrometer to 3.5625. So now they make a tool to do this that gives you a bigger surface area. That way you got more room to play with this gauge. And then what I did, I went in here. The thing is, you got to get it right on that little dot. And you do the same thing. So I say you can run off of there really easy. Anyway, I got messing around, so I got this thing set to 0. Now I don't know how well you'll see this in the video, so I'll show you here a little closer up. See how the hand comes down? The farther this way it travels, the shorter the distance. When it comes down here and stops and starts going back up, when it stops is the lowest part. So that's where you're going to want to put the 0 by turning this. And there is a little screw up here that locks that bezel and stuff. If I put this back in the engine and it's on this side of 0, the cylinder bore is too big. If it's on the left side of the 0, we got room to work with. Now usually what I do is I like to go, because the crank rotates, I like to go 90 degrees to the crank and measure. That's where you're probably going to get the most wear. And that's probably where, I don't know, hope you can see. So what's that? I'm too big already. Yeah, it looks like a half a thousandth. And there's 1,000th. And down at the bottom, and down at the bottom, I'm good. I'm 1,000th smaller at the bottom. When I get up here in the middle, it should hit the 0 if it's within tolerance, and it ain't coming down to it. So it's 1,000th too big. Now the other way, you probably don't. Yeah, I could probably turn the engine. See, that way we're half a thousandth. It's right in the middle. Half a thousandth. About right on there. Oop, what did I do to you? See, when I get down here below where the rings usually run, I'm back up to about a normal size. So this engine really, in reality, needs bored out. Okay, I heard you. Put the ring in there and check the end gap. Okay, 30 thousandths is reject size. I have a 35, a 30, and a 5 thousandths. So that's what, 70 thousandths? And fits right in there. I could probably get another thousandth or two in there. So the rings are definitely worn out. So I don't know what we'll do. Maybe I'll think about it. I'll find another set of rings, a new set of rings, and see if I got about 10 or 12 thousandths there, and see where I do end up. But it's hard to do with the rings, especially putting a new set in or something that didn't wear, because it's not round, so the rings didn't wear even. And just putting a new ring or a used ring in there, it is good to check the end gap, but it doesn't take place of measuring the bore. Okay, just one more thing. I sound like that, what was that guy? Was it Columbo or whatever? Kept coming back to ask that last question. If you look here, that's 11 thousandths. 12 thousandths is just a little bit too tight. So I got 11 thousandths in there. That's at the top though. So I need to push it halfway down, which I don't have a piston, or do I? So I do have a piston. Let's just shove it on down in there ways. Like I say, I don't try to warm everything up. Maybe because of the coldness is why I'm having the issue. Let's see where I'm at 11 thousandths. 11 thousandths fits easy. Let's try 12. 12 will fit in there, but let's go for 14 or 15. Let's try 15. I don't think 15's gonna fit in there. Yes, it does. Tight. So yeah, 15 thousandths. When you're halfway down in the big part of the cylinder. And you really should have 30 thousandths as a reject size, so you do have a little bit of room to play with if you measure it this way. But if you measure with the dial bore indicator, the cylinder's too big. So I'll have to see what I'm going to do. I might just, because I got some other engines I want to do first, I might just throw a set of rings in here and just see what happens. What, you know, see if they'll seal on a thousandths oversized. One more thing. That exhaust valve will turn. It's not easy to turn, but it does turn, the intake don't. So maybe we'll have to pay a little attention to that too. Lap it in or something, see if we can get it to check the clearances.